Welcome to Comic Power. I am your host, Comic Killer 72. This segment today is called Wicked Wednesday. Every Wednesday is like Christmas for us nerds because that's when the new comics come out. These are my recommendations for the best books to pick up on Wednesday. But here's some other information first. 2017 is the 25th anniversary of the founding of Image Comics, and I want to congratulate them for that. It's a step forward for creators' rights. If you put out a book on Image, you own all the rights to those characters. If you put out a book for Marvel, Marvel owns the rights to those characters, even if you created them yourself. I just showed Cable and Deadpool, who Rob Liefeld co-created, but he doesn't see money for them. Marvel owns those characters, and Fox owns the movie rights to those characters. So Image is the way to go for creators. Can you imagine how much money Robert Kirkman will make in his lifetime from owning The Walking Dead? Toys, merchandise, everything. It's him and not some corporation. On another note, I have special programming coming up for Women's History Month as well about the female contribution in comics. Look out for that soon. But for now, let's do what we came here today for, and that's New Comic Day. And DC Comics is giving us Batman Beyond #6. This is part 1 of a new storyline called The Rise of the Demon. I'm a big fan of this future Batman in the person of Terry McGinnis. Next up, you guessed it, more Batman. And that's going to be Batman by Brian K. Vaughan on trade paperback. It retails for about $16 and it includes Batman 588 through 590, Detective Comics 787, Wonder Woman 160 through 161, and Batman Gotham City Secret Files #1. As the name implies, it's stuff that's written by Brian K. Vaughan, who's probably the most acclaimed writer in comics these days. He was the creator and writer of the RUNAWAYS, the creator and the writer of Why the Last Man, and the co-creator and writer of Saga. So he's already a comic legend if he never does anything the rest of his life. That is a beastly resume. So here's a chance to see some of his Batman stuff, collected in one volume. Next up is The Flash #19. This is the completion of the Sins of the Father storyline. And as the cover shows, it guest stars Captain Boomerang and takes place on his home turf down under. Next up is Wonder Woman #19. This is part 3 of the Truth storyline. Her team must take on a deadly group called the Poison. DC is continuing the cover B variants by Jenny Frison, who's one of the most underrated comic artists in the business. Next up is Supersons #1, which is going to a second print. No surprise here, it was pretty exciting to see these characters teamed up. The first print came out in February and has a orangish looking background, and the second print listed here has this red background. So that's how you tell the difference. Their first meeting is in Superman #10, so you might want to go ahead and pick that up. It's selling on eBay now for an average of about $15. Next up is DMZ Volume 3 Trade Paperback, originally published on Vertigo, which is a division of DC. This collects issues 29 through 44 of this series. This series takes place in the future after another American Civil War, and New York is a demilitarized zone, or DMZ for short. Originally published from 2005 to 2012, there's been talk about turning this into a television show, but nothing's really got started yet. The writer is Brian Wood, and he's currently writing Briggs Land, which is the story of a secessionist compound that wants to leave the United States. This one has actually been optioned by AMC to be a television show, so DMZ is just talk, but Briggs Land probably will make it to television. It couldn't hurt to have #1 of both of them though. Next up, let's see what Marvel is up to. First up is Black Panther #12, and this comic is less comic booky and more of a political thriller. To work out a peace deal in his homeland, T'Challa must work out a republic instead of a dictatorship. This series is laying the groundwork for future material they'll use in the Black Panther sequels. If the Venomized covers is your thing, they got one for BP12, but I don't think it looks that hot. Next up is Gamora #4, and this is shaping up to be a very solid space adventure. They also have a Venomized variant for it, which I don't like either. Let me reiterate that I love the Venom character. He's Spider-Man's arch enemy, but these Venomized covers on characters that have nothing to do with Spider-Man, it just is not working for me. I don't hate Marvel, I really don't, but they do some stuff that really tests my patience. Deep sigh. Okay, let's continue. Next up is Elektra #2, and she's kicking ass and taking names in Sin City. That cover is by a new artist named Elizabeth Torque, and that looks fantastic. Elektra 2 has the most hype variant of the week, which is a Gronov 1 in 25. His work is all of that, and he's a superstar now, commanding some high prices on his variants. At the making of this video, this cover is going for about $120 on eBay right now. You know, if I've spoken out many times about overpaying for variants, it's not going to stay that high. So stop overpaying for variants. You could buy 29 regular cover books for the cost of this one book. I don't pay more than $10 for any variant that just came out. Once in a blue moon, you can go up to 20, which I'll discuss later. If you chase these things, you're going to lose a lot of money because you're buying at peak and it has nowhere to go but down. Next up is Iron Fist #1, and Marvel has timed this to drop right around the same time as the new Netflix series. And speaking of the Netflix series, it's the first Marvel project I can think of in a long time that's gotten bad reviews. I haven't got a chance to watch it yet, so I'll report on that later. As for the comic, we don't know if it's been rushed to coincide with the TV show or if it's any good or not, but it's good marketing from Marvel from the time they're releasing it. People will be killing themselves to get the Alex Ross variant, but once again, don't overpay. The weird looking one is going to be the Kari Andrews variant. This artist used to draw Iron Fist back in the day and is currently working on Renato Jones for Image. Next up is Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur #17. This is a title I think you should be paying attention to. Despite low sales, Marvel is not canceling this title. They're actually doubling down on it. She's been named the smartest person in the Marvel 616 universe. So everyone in this universe is paying attention and saying, who is this girl? And X-Men A-listers like Old Man Logan and Storm on the cover here. In this issue, Dr. Doom wants to find out who she is as well. Next up is Spider-Gwen #18, and I really dig that cover. This is the conclusion of the Miles Morales Spider-Gwen crossover. They battle a mysterious villain who crosses multiple dimensions with a romantic subplot. Next up is Unworthy Thor #5. This is the finale of this incredible miniseries by Jason Aaron. I believe he deserves an Eisner for his work on this. They brought out Beta Ray Bill, the Collector, and all types of crazy stuff. And I loved every page of it. It was incredible. I can't wait to see what they do with the character next. Next up is Darth Maul #2 of a 5-part miniseries. Although he was not properly used in the prequels, he's been a cult favorite villain since his introduction, and probably one of the best designed characters in the last 20 years. This miniseries fleshes out his origin, and the variants look good. Buy them if you can find them for less than $10. Next up is Invincible Iron Man #5. This is the Riri Williams version. As you can see, she's backed by a whole cadre of Marvel's mightiest heroes. As you can see, Kamala Khan is front and center with her. Both of these characters are supposed to be about 15 to 16 years old, so it makes sense they would be friends and be close. Next up is our report on independent comics and small publishers. First up is DOLLFACE #3 from Action Lab Danger Zone. This character was produced by the same team that gave us Zombie Tramp. It's selling very well and it's already found its audience. It's a story of a 17th century witch hunter who's trapped in the body of a modern day life-size doll, which sounds completely ridiculous, but they do make it work. This publisher specializes in weird science fiction. And yes, this is extremely weird, but entertaining. Next up is Anno Dracula #1 from Titan Comics. This takes place in the 19th century where Dracula has ruled Great Britain for 10 years. A team of 3 women form a coalition to try to take him down and dispose of this tyrant. That's a very interesting take on Dracula. I think I'll pick this up. Next up is Powerless #1 from Vault Comics. This is a story about a future in which everyone has superpowers, but a virus spreads and takes away all of those abilities, and a quarantine emerges to stop the spread. That's a very intriguing premise. You should be spending your $3.99 to buy something like this rather than paying $3.99 to get Marvel's F-list stars like Food Killer. So Wednesday, buy this and don't buy this, and the comic world would be a much better place. Next up, and also from Vault Comics, is Heathen #2. #1 was a surprise hit for this small publisher, and the print run was just below 3,000 copies. It sold out. The first print is going for about $10 on eBay. The variant is going for about $40. A second print variant of #1 drops on April 12th, and it looks like this. Since this is the new hot book, issue #2 has already been selling out on eBay pre-sale, going for about $12. I think I'll do a special report video about Heathen later. It's worth talking about. A female Viking revenge story. I would go ahead and pick up whatever issue #1 you can afford, and pick up #2 if you can find it. With Heathen being a hit and Powerless looking like it's going to be a hit, Vault has this and some more comics coming, so they could be the new darling indie publisher of the year. Next up is 2 strong offerings from Valiant Comics. They are not playing this week. First up is Exo Manowar #1. This is the reboot, starring Eric of Dacia. He's a barbarian prince who's fighting the Roman Empire in the 4th century that gets abducted by space aliens. This character was first introduced in Exo Manowar #1 in 1992. He's sort of like a mashup of Iron Man, being that his suit has high technology, and Venom, because the suit that he's wearing is a living organism, and Conan, considering that he's a barbarian. When the last incarnation wrapped up with issue 50, he thought he was done with the exosuit, but there's more work to be done now. And he's missing his left hand, which needs to be explained. Valiant is going all out with the variants on this one, and the most ridiculous is going to be a 1 in 500 brushed metal variant, which you're seeing right here. People are asking $1,000 for this on eBay. Hey, I like the character, but I don't like him that much. But it is worth your $3.99 this week to buy the regular cover. Next up is the speculation pick of the week. The offering from XO is so strong, any other week it would have been the speculation pick of the week, but this week it's losing out to Bloodshot Reborn number 0, also from Valiant Comics. This title has been an absolute thrill ride from the very beginning back in 2015. It's written by Jeff LEMIRE, who's most famous for writing the Eisner Award-winning Descender title. I promise to do a future character study on him so you can get some background information on him. I believe he's one of the coolest anti-heroes ever created. He has a backstory that's similar to Wolverine, with some Total Recall influences in it. I named Bloodshot number 14 one of the top 10 comics of 2016. It introduced us to Deathmate and a handful of early Bloodshot prototypes. Number 0 is important because it's going to be the first appearance of his daughter, Jessie. So will she be the X-23 to his Wolverine? No spoilers. There's a 1 in 20 variant for this, which has gotten snatched up real quick on eBay and going for about $20 right now. I still have my $10 rule for new ratio variants, but for something like this, you might want to be paying attention. You could go over a little bit, considering it's the first appearance of a character that could prove very important in the future. As always, let's get the report on Image before we close. First up is the title I was just mentioning, Descender number 20 from Jeff LEMIRE, the same writer as Bloodshot. It's a story of a boy robot in outer space on the run. It has a very distinctive art style that is watercolor painted by Dustin Nguyen. It has a universe that is just as large as Star Wars. If you're not reading this, you're missing a real adventure. Next up is Curse Words number 3. This is the story of a wizard that shows up in New York performing spells and everybody think he's cool, but he's actually an evil wizard. Issue number 1 is also back with a third print with this cosplayed, weird, strange looking variant. Issue number 2 also drops this week with a second printing, which is also a variant. Next up is Few number 3. This is a sci-fi epic story of survivalists, militias, and extremist Americans. This is part 3 of a 6-part miniseries, and issue number 1 is also being re-released this week in a third printing. I'm not feeling the art style, but the story is intriguing. With so many titles going into reprints due to demand, I believe this is the year that Image will increase from 10% of the market to 20% of the market and be a real threat to Marvel and DC, which will make Marvel and DC better because competition breeds giants. Next up is Loose Ends number 3 of a 4-part miniseries. This is produced by Jason Latour, who's most famous for Southern Bastards. It's a Southern fried crime drama, so if you like Latour's work, you'll like this. Next up is Magdalena number 1. A female warrior with royal blood defends the world from demonic evil. I'll have some of that, but I'll be picking up cover B, the women's history variant. I think it looks better than cover A. On cover A, she looks fearful, which a warrior should never show. Next up is Underwinter number 1. This promises to be a story of dark world horror. I think the cover is showing you what it's all about. Ray Falkus is both writing and drawing this. There's a Jeff LEMIRE cover B variant, but go ahead and pick up cover A. Jeff LEMIRE is a great writer, but he's not a great artist, but he tries anyway. Next up is Reborn number 5 of a 6-part miniseries. If you forgot, this is the team up of Greg Capullo on art and Mark Millar on writing. Next up is Violent Love number 5 of a 5-part miniseries, so this is the finale. It's a Pulp Fiction inspired criminal romance with the Bonnie and Clyde archetype. It was a lot of fun. Look out for the trade paperback when it comes out. And last but not least is 7 to Eternity, the Artist's Proof. This collects issues number 1 and number 2 and prints them out at 11:17 format. And it's all black and white, breaking down the art of Jerome OPENA, who drew and inked this. And it brought Rick Remender's sci-fi tale to life and become Image's biggest new release of 2016. It has a cover price of $25, so this is for hardcore fans. That's about it for today. Thank you for watching Wicked Wednesday, where I review all the new comic books for a new comic day. Be sure to follow my blog at comicpower.net. On social media, follow me at facebook.com/comicpower.net and comicpower-universe.tumblr.com. And don't forget twitter.com/comicpowersub. I also sell comics on eBay at this link. This is Comic Killer 72 for Comic Power saying bye-bye. And don't forget to share this video, click on subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and tell everyone you know about this channel to help it grow. Thank you for your support.